Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday. It's June. No, it's not. It's May. But we're still happy to be here. You guys know that we started this little program back in March. Some of the Canvas community came together to provide videos, training, thought leadership content for all of the incredible Canvas community. So we are excited to be here today with our partners from EesySoft. Ian and Stein, welcome to you and thanks for joining. They're going to be talking today about driving digitization and change management on a budget. So as always, drop in the comments who you are, where you're from, any questions that you have throughout. We want to hear them. I want to make Ian and Stein a little bit uncomfortable. Give them the hard stuff. We'll stay away from politics, but anything else, bring it on.
Beautiful.
With that, Ian, take it away.
Yeah, no, welcome everybody. I'm super excited to kind of have some people here and escape the quarantine and over children lifestyle that I have at this moment. We're from EesySoft, so today is going to be a fun presentation about some of our institution's workflows. So it's 100% borrowed/stolen from our existing users, which is going to be lovely. My wingman today is Stein. Stein, do you want to say hello?
Hey everyone, my name is Stein. I'm Ian's colleague over at EesySoft. We're really excited to talk to you today. And I'll be monitoring the comment section. So if you do have any questions at any time, feel free to chuck them in there. And I'll make sure either I get back to you in the comments directly, or I'll give Ian a poke and he'll show you on the screen.
Perfect. I'm sure that'll feel lovely when it happens. But anyways, we do want to encourage interactions. If you have any questions, anything whatsoever, on a more serious note, we're happy to kind of deviate from a specific case study or answer a question that starts with, at my institution, we do this, which is totally fine. Really, don't hesitate to kind of get involved and be engaged, and we'll go from there. Now, the genesis of this presentation has been with multiple kind of conversations with different institutions about, listen, we really want to modernize, we need to digitize, we're feeling those specific types of pressures, but at the same time, we are looking at our coffers more and more concerningly at this point in time due to everything that's been going on in the education and academic world due to COVID, due to changing as far as student expectations, due to kind of the changing from remote learning to online learning, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a wild changing of expectations and the anticipation as far as what might happen in budget. So let's talk about both those things. So how do we do both in a situation where there's kind of this wench on academics and educators to do both at the same time? So this content, this is just a big kind of like public statement for David. All of the things that you will see on screen today have been stolen, well, not stolen, but with permission. I guess a better way would be maybe perhaps saying that it was borrowed in a situation where we're just plugging in what goes on in the ecosystem. So it's probably one of the easiest presentations for an EesySofter to give, as we are simply just pulling from our log. Now, you might ask, where the heck are you talking about? Like, how do you have all of these different capabilities and things like that? We have a full area that I'll show you in a bit called the EesySoft universe. So what this universe is a collection of campaigns, mechanisms, ways that institutions are using these different areas and going forward from there. So you might see your school. Let me just take a look. We've got some people from Kenya. We've got some people from Virginia. We've got some people from Georgia. Lovely comments. And I think everybody can kind of understand that shoestring budget is normal, but it might be getting that the shoe size is a little bit bigger and your shoelaces are the exact same thing. So super, super helpful to kind of see what's going. So welcome, everybody. We'll keep rocking and rolling. But what is EesySoft? So to get a bit of an understanding of what the solution is, we'll keep rocking and rolling from there. So first thing is measuring impact on tool adoption. So that could be in Studio, that could be in SpeedGrader, that could be in assignments or logins. Every aspect of Canvas has been plugged with these things we call monitors, which are basically gauges as far as how things work in the tool. And we use that to measure how many users, how many clicks, how many access points, and you'll see in kind of the reports, are being used to either drive adoption or drive onboarding or different aspects when it comes to use of Canvas. Hey, Erica, welcome aboard. I know in Sweden you guys are getting more and more sunlight, so hopefully this is a bright part of your day. That's a horrible joke to welcome you, but it's late over here.
Ian, possible to break down that adoption by, for example, different students, or how can I categorize those adoption figures?
Great question. The answer is 100% yes, and we'll show you a little bit how that works on screen. But you can use adoption by Canvas hierarchy. So we've been seeing teaching assistants, students, instructors, all those different areas. So it's been very, very possible to kind of break down different segments. If you want to get really crazy, you can import information from the student information system and break down adoption on those particular areas as well. But the native use that we see in Canvas is you utilize that hierarchy and go from there. So number one, measuring that impact on tool adoption. Number two is using those different pieces of tool adoption to spur messaging to drive additional usage. So faculty development is one that we'll go into today from an institution. We just did a training. We want to make sure that there's a message and a video in that appropriate place. Maybe it's how we use rubrics, or it's how we use the Grade Center, or the different modules, or something like that. And we want to have an on-screen message to the specific faculty members that attended that particular training session. Then, if everything goes beautifully well, we make sure that that adoption goes ahead and, well, we watch that adoption grow in the reports and different things like that. Inline messages are role specific, page specific, obviously timing specific if you want to have something at the end of term or the start of term, and different things like that. So should be fun. We're going to go see that. So that's number two, messaging. And this can be, again, as you see fit, custom at the institution, page specific, role specific, etc. Number three is support. So in this whole COVID kind of situation, it's been a little rough. Support centers are feeling increases in the amount of support tickets that come through. I think we had one that was 12 times. The average is about 3.5 to 4 times the normal rate of tickets coming in. So that means help centers are overloaded, faculty development centers are overloaded, Center for Teaching and Learnings and CETLs are overloaded, and it's just a rough situation. So we have the ability to leverage the in-app support for Canvas for all what we call tier 0 support. So basically it's on-screen, page-specific, role-specific, context-specific support. So if I'm in the Grade Center, perhaps I need some help, I click on the support button. All of the grade-specific Canvas help, pre-made from Canvas help, articles are going to show up on screen, which is great.
So just to double check, Ian, we don't actually need anyone sitting behind a support desk. Say I'm a student and I need help with something immediately. I can get that whether I'm trying to hand in something at 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, correct?
Precisely. And also the escalation points that we'll get to in a bit can go anywhere. So if there is an escalation for a student, that could go to the student center. If there is an escalation for a faculty or instructor, that could go directly to the Center for Teaching and Learning or the Faculty Development Center. If it's after hours, it could go to Canvas Extra Help support. If it's during office hours, it might go for a live phone or an email address, and we'll get to that in a bit. Welcome to the New Yorkers. I'm based in Amsterdam. Yeah. I'm Canadian by origin, so we feel your quarantined self as we go into this particular environment. So
definitely welcome. Hi, Ismail and Laura, by the way. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Perfect. Ismail from Nigeria. Lovely. Good stuff. So recap before we get into the fun stuff, which is how the institutions are using this that we have borrowed / stolen from our existing universities, which are there about 100 or 200 of so. One, we've got measuring adoption, which we'll show on screen, using campaigns, which is custom messages to different user groups. 3, which is taking action, which we can send messages based on those campaigns. So say, for example, you wish to send a message to all those who have not been accessing the rubrics. You can send a message to those particular instructors that have been not following faculty development or instructional development learning aspect, for an example. Or maybe it'd be students who haven't accessed their grades, et cetera, and 24/7 context and role specific. So I think the key thing that we have to drive home here is to improve teaching and learning, we need to enhance the learning experience. And we need to empower that. And hopefully we use technology in a smart way to make that happen. So now let's get to the fun stuff. So before I move there, I want to show them the classic Canvas adoption strategy, because in other LMSs and different systems, grading is a point of contention. It's a point of difficulty. And one of the things we want to do, especially in the early stages of Canvas adoption and migration, is ensure that there are on-screen messages to those who have not been using the grading center, or in this case, SpeedGrader, at full capacity. because it saves hours and hours of time. So one of the key things that we always set up with new Canvas institutions, or perhaps new programs, new courses, new instructors, logging in a message to drive the usage of SpeedGrader. And in this case, we saw it at San Diego State University, 274%. So I'll show you on screen what that message was once we get there, but that's a big, big, big out of the box, easy to use, one of those different campaigns. Number two.
That looks like an end of quarter graph, Ian. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a nice one, eh? Not too bad.
Yeah.
Not too bad. So that's the easiest example I have for you that basically is implemented on, I don't know, probably 90 of our 100 Canvas institutions. So automatic update service. This is another global usage that many of our customers use, and it's one that we've pre-made. So it's ready to be actioned. So I think there's dozens and dozens of pre-made campaigns that either our universities or our content team have created, who, to be honest, mostly we've stolen from other universities and academics. But automatic update service is very, very key, because in Canvas, they're releasing new features every 3 weeks. You know how when your test server relapses, there's going to be new features that could be pushed out. The automatic update service is a quick overview of any of those features that you wish to put into play. So it's training your different users or stakeholders to use those new tools. So I'll show you how that works on screen as well, but it's one of the most popular. The last thing is using EesySoft to escalate smarter. So we talked about the support area and different things like that taking a bit of a beating. Right now, we're kind of in a situation where we see not only the escalation going to wherever you want it to go, so 9 to 5, maybe it goes upwards into a support center, but it also carries a ton of pertinent information. So you've got user, you've got which course they were in, you've got which courses they are enrolled in, you've got the last message that they saw, you've got the page that they're witnessing, browser, OS, different cookies that they've picked up. So when it comes to ticket resolution, you've got a heck of a lot of information that you go ahead and attack the problem, in addition to being a tier 0 support. So typically what we see is in our active database of our customers, the #1 ROI piece of EesySoft is putting into this tier 0 support into play. Because what it does is on screen, and I'll show you how it works, it allows this to be everywhere in the system itself. So I'll show you that. And lastly, this is just a nice quote from a handsome devil, Sydney here, just basically saying they had 40,000 students, and they were able to limit the amount of people in their support center from 3.5 FTE down to 1 FTE with the use of EesySoft and building in their own custom knowledge base in addition to the LMS help, which is automatically preloaded. So now we're going to the fun stuff. So I'm going to force you people to tell us something fun or something hilarious that has been going on in the last 3 weeks of unhilarious times as I transition from the slideshow into the live environment. Don't be shy.
Let's see. I think we have 2 people who may have been long lost friends in New York.
they've connected and made it.
EesySoft brings people together, Ian.
Look at that. Look at that. So as I keep talking, I still want to hear some of the ways that your institution has been doing different things or different kind of fun things that you've been doing. But this is a general message. So there's something called a system tray message that you see on screen. This is stolen from a community college where they were giving different updates using EesySoft to ensure that all students, all instructors had pertinent information as far as what's going on screen in that particular area. So very generic, very easy to understand, very easy to kind of go ahead and action. Now we go to the use of the Commons area. So Canvas has this lovely Commons piece that you can activate in the navigation bar. So when this was put into play at a university, I believe this is a community college in California, they created this easy to go message just to let their instructors and teaching assistants know that this was happening. And when we can go into the Commons and obviously go ahead and take a look at the directors or different courses. Okay, so this is our first one. This is going to be lightning. We're going to be fast here as far as how these different messages are taking place. So maybe we'll go into a course, and I'll close this. But you know what? I'm a biology student, so I'm going to go into a biology course here. And you know what I'll do? Maybe I'm going to jump to perhaps just, I'm not a student, but I am an online teacher. So this is my first time teaching online. So we've created this campaign not to the instructors that have taught online before, but in this case, perhaps this is a biology instructor that this is their first time entering into the environment. So Canvas is famous for having checklists for setting up courses, for I believe going through the syllabus and going through the different aspects of the course itself. But what if you need to call an audible? What if you need, Erica, I think I had 3 coffees before this, so I apologize for my heavy enthusiasm, but I hope you can still understand me.
Also, hi Edward. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining.
Beautiful. So the online training checklist used to be different things that have changed in a course. So perhaps it's something that we need to make sure. Let's go through course preparation, course checklist, best practices. So we open this up, we can see, okay, this is our different checklist as far as what's going on in those particular areas. Perhaps this is a teaching assistant. And to ensure that the different steps that have gone through for grading papers or disseminating information are accurate and followed with department standards, we have a checklist that can be custom created by biology in this case to ensure that those particular steps are formed. So it's very malleable, very easy to go ahead and utilize on any role or any different place. But in this case, we have a checklist as we're greeted in that particular screen. Now, let's pretend I am now a student. So maybe I go to the announcements and I'm going to go through here. Oh, there's one that says this is how you can go ahead and access external RSS feeds. So this was from an Australian university. I had to look up and see if RSS feeds are still being used. But what you're allowed to do is click here, an external link or an external video to go ahead and see how this particular aspect would be. Okay. The decaf stuff just takes as good as the high octane. I don't know, man. Laura, we might just be bygones be bygones here. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I'm actually drinking a black tea because I had 2 coffees before.
We'll get you into some mindfulness there, some meditation after you.
Mindfulness. So we're through assignments, we're through announcements. Let's take a look at perhaps, you know what? Let's take a look at that grading example. So we're going to open up grades. I think this one is on module 2. Oh, student filter group. So you've got a large course submission that would only show up for courses of say 50 or more, or different things like that. You're in a situation where student group filters or different types of environmental prompts or different types of course prompts can be brought up to specific areas. It's incredibly important because this type of scenario is super pertinent when you're bringing in a new way of doing business or a new way of doing operations at an institution. In this case, it might be, how do I use the new gradebook? What are the new grading outlines? Something that could be cohort specific, department specific, or perhaps even it's a situation where a non-major instructor is now teaching an elective for the first time where there are different grading requirements. Now, let's say that I am an instructor and I get a little lost. Those, for whatever reasons, those videos or those checklists are not 100% accurate or 100% interpretable for my particular situation, or perhaps my level of caffeine, if we're in that scenario. What we might see is we open up grading, you'd see all of these different grading help items are on screen. This is what we were talking about at the beginning of the presentation for Tier 0 support. So without having to reach out, without having to open another browser, without any contact, the faculty department center or support center or anything like that, I've got everything that I need on screen from the Canvas Help Center, automatically copied over, preloaded in EesySoft. And I've also got the ability to load any custom content, knowledge-based content from the institution itself. So what is SpeedGrader? Let's open that up. Here you can go, you see a full help item and a nice little explanation for that area. Was this item helpful? You know what? This item was helpful. And I give my support people saying, great work, clear this up at 3 a.m. before my midterm.
Sure, they'll appreciate that, Ian.
Perfect. So there you go. So that's lovely. Now, what if this didn't solve my problem? I can still go through the normal escalation paths. We show the different materials and items that would be passed with this message, but this can be email. Perhaps, we don't want to do email. We want to do call center, or, maybe this could be integrated into a chat box. You can see all these different pieces coming through. Oh, I think I clicked email again. Let's go back and click call. You can see here now you can know the specific number that particular reference and the call number that you need to reach out to. So it's very intuitive. It's kind of stupid simple. It's nothing special, but what the magic is behind this type of thing is a little bit of interpretive information on presenting the right information at the right time, which is overall incredibly helpful and lowers at least certain frustration levels a ton. So those are some examples. I think I've got one more where I might want to take a look at quizzes. So we'll go back into my biology course. But you know what? Maybe I'll hop into the reports and we'll look at tool adoption as far as the reports behind the scene, and then open up assessments, and perhaps rubrics, or perhaps quizzes, or open rubrics, or tests in this case, and take a quiz, view quizzes. So I've got all of the data. In this case, I've got student data, but maybe I want to look at instructor. I want to look at the same thing. We're looking at any role, any admin, any group, and I'll look at scaled percentage. And
So
I'll,
who has
set
access
the
to these
dates.
reports, Ian, and what can they be used for?
Perfect. So you have a choice of who has access to this. So there's a couple different ways that this perhaps could be rolled out. One would be just for the Center of Teaching and Learning. One would be for the dean or the instructors. Or also you've got the option to kind of send these to any different depository for use at different faculty members. And in the next release, we'll also have the ability for instructors to see their own courses as well in these particular types of action and implementation as well. So let's go back to that kind of question that we had where it was, I want to look at my assignments and I want to look at all of the instructors at the institution who has been managing their assignments. And we see it's a good level, it's 60%. But as an institution level, maybe I want to create a campaign and create a message that is sent out to all of those instructors who have not been active in this particular area. And this is where we'll see a friendly prompt that says, hey, listen, we love your engagement, but we see that you haven't been managing the assignments. Now, the number one use case that we've seen been put in place in North America is to ensure that teaching assistants have provided the appropriate level of information or the timeline for grading or something of that level within Canvas in their login. So non-active teaching assistants, because what we've found out is that one of the major experiential impacts that is out of the control of the faculty member is this relation with a lab assistant or a teaching assistant. So ensuring that you have 100% on-time adoption of tools that could have critical impact on that particular course or that particular program objective or course objective is incredibly helpful. So we go through all these different areas. You can see there's different rubrics, there's different portfolios, but let's get back to cost savings. So if you're a department head or you're a CIO or you're a Center for Teaching and Learning or Teaching and Learning head, you're probably going to want to look at collaboration and communication mechanisms, but you're going to want to look at third-party softwares as well as what's going on in your tool. So perhaps you've realized that we have 5 video platforms, or we have 3 different ways of, in this case, collaborating with different environments, and it's confusing the students. What you can do here is you can send messages to the different types of solutions that you're offboarding or trying to decrease adoption towards. And you can send messages saying, listen, Google Docs will no longer exist due to privacy concerns. We saw a lot of examples of this with Zoom, where institutions didn't know that courses were using Zoom until this whole Zoom bombing kind of aspect was going forward. So what we can see is we can use this for offboarding, onboarding, third-party comparison, but also all of the different aspects as far as monitors within the environment. Now, you might be wondering, how the heck can you do that? Well, EesySoft has the ability to create these monitors in any place within Canvas. You can see kind of that highlight string go back and forth. So as long as that tool is an LTI plug into Canvas, we can go ahead and integrate it with no development, no coding, to ensure that those third-party tools also have monitors, data, and the option for messaging and prompts on screen throughout the institution itself. So now that my caffeine buzz is kind of lowered down a bit, any questions? I've got a few more examples that I'd like to show, but I'm also very, very happy to kind of go off the script and answer any questions that anyone have. So please don't be shy. One last thing that I think is incredibly important is if you've put in a custom little button. I spoke with a university in Iceland, and they've included a special button for a widget that they've included that's not out of the box, but it's been added to Canvas in their particular theme. We would also be able to catch it using something called the free select mode, which is the quick ability to go ahead and access modern, or on-campus customizations. But in this case, maybe we'll grab a generic area where all of the different variables are selected. Maybe we want to add a quiz here, just because we want to make sure that all of our different lectures are using quizzes. We'll open a message, maybe a hint message, and it's just as easy as we can, saying quizzes. It's too late. Properly.
And what is the difference between the three kinds of messages that you can place on the page here?
Yep, so there's a way that you can hover over and it shows up only when you're looking at that piece, which is called a hint message, a system tray, which is a full capability, or in this case, it's a hint message with a automatic share. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. What's your favorite type of message, Stein?
I think for anything company-wide, the pop-up is definitely the way to go, but you have to use those sparingly because for students and instructors, they don't like having messages that they have to, it's really in your face, and it's usually used for example, announcements or if there's huge LMS migration things going on. So personally, I think the hint is a little bit less in your face, but just as effective. And I particularly like that all the messages can collect feedback directly from the people who view them. So you have little thumbs up and thumbs down, and they can immediately leave comments as well. Which goes directly back to whoever made the message in the first place. And that way you can constantly be improving and see what people find helpful and what they find not so helpful.
So in this case, it's the last day of class and the gradebook has been closed for this particular department. So if an instructor were to go ahead and add a quiz, this particular pop-up will show, hey, listen, you can't go ahead and do this in Canvas because of a particular reason. So it's a way of streamlining institutional or department process with a nice friendly explanation on why that particular aspect is not going on. Geez, you guys are quiet. Maybe I lost you, or maybe I had too much caffeine at the beginning. Any questions or any comments, even if it's just about the weather?
If we see him come in, I'll point him out to you.
Perfect.
I think maybe your high-speed explanation has been so end-to-end that we've got everything covered.
Well, they always say that if there's no questions, you're either doing an excellent job or a horrible job. It's quite binary, quite binary in that situation. But at a high level, really, the adoption pieces and the tooling and different things like that are incredibly easy to use to drive different behavior. One of the last examples that I wanted to show here is if we go into the...
Quick question before you get started, Ian. Tracy is wondering, viewing every single button and monitor feels a little bit Big Brother-ish, sort of teacher evaluation. Can you convince her she's wrong? How does EesySoft go about privacy and data and this sort of thing?
Yep. So from a data standpoint, everything's kind of like aggregated at an institutional level, so we can't drill down. But when we're looking at these reports, you're never going to see an institution or an instructor's name in these particular reports, but more so the overall adoption of a different aggregated section. Now, if you see these different messages, they may feel a little Orwellian, but it's really the reinforcing aspects of what the faculty union has decided is the appropriate program objective. It shouldn't stray from anything outside of something that's already been discussed in a faculty development. You might feel a little bit of a nagging push or something like that for something that is rudimentary, but hopefully your institution can kind of understand that that's the reason behind it is really to reach the objectives to make your course successful. For example, we have a course evaluation reminder for specific courses that have historically had low response rates. This is done to ensure that that instructor has enough quality of data to go ahead and push that forward for their their different faculty development dossiers or reviews or portfolios or whatever it may be. So I guess I hate to say it, but I can't convince you that your institution is going to use it in a Big Brother way. But what I can say is that the institutions that I've worked with are usually using it in an aspiring way to ensure that the use of Canvas is most effective and efficient for all of its users. Fair enough. And I think it's a good question. The other thing that's important that I don't think I mentioned is if one of these pop-ups comes up, in one button, you can remove that pop-up from showing for forever for those particular areas. And the instructor can also give negative feedback saying, listen, this is a ridiculous lesson or the ridiculous suggestion, which goes back to central. So there is the option to say, if you feel like you're being watched or it's not something that's constructive, there's that direct feedback loop into those particular messages. And in the support reports, here, I'll open up here as far as the different support tabs. There's a full feedback report that shows the positive and the negative responses to those particular areas. It also shows institutions where instructors are clicking the support button the most to hopefully either make that particular portion of the course better, which sounds rudimentary, but you'd be surprised, or add a quick fix, which is maybe a video or a self-help for this semester that we're in to kind of make that a little bit more apparent to all instructors based on individual feedback within the support coming through itself. So what else? Help me help you, as Jerry Maguire would say. Maybe you guys could share what department or what type of course you guys are actively running, and maybe I could dip into my book of examples that I've stolen from our universe. Now, one thing that might be helpful is I'll show you, and Stein, if you could share on screen, I'm going to show you where all of these examples are coming from. So the EesySoft universe, which I aforementioned kind of in the slide deck on my caffeine high, is a platform to share all of these responses and messages and prompts and campaigns with other institutions. So in biology or in this particular area, I could share and copy and paste the campaign with another institution and they could load it up without any issue. Or I could load it up to the universe for all to kind of go ahead and benefit from. So we launched this less than a month ago. We've already got hundreds and hundreds of reviews. You can see this. The OER comments was stolen directly from an institution that launched this at the beginning of that use. So I think one of the things that we've learned is that the use of our tool is incredibly widespread and malleable and different things like that. So it is always a conversation of what are your biggest use cases? What are your biggest adoption levers that you need to grow at your particular institution? Is it that you've just purchased Portfolium or Studio or something like that, or whatever it may be? Or is it a situation where you just need to ensure that students are using the tools to complete the course? Erica, I teach adults and I'm the administrator of my campus institution. So this is a beautiful example. So especially adult learners who are going into an LMS for the first time, it might be in a situation where you want to have a walkthrough for adult learners to hit the key aspects of those marks. So let me walk through a couple different ways. Now, one, you have obviously the course setup, which likely you're going to use a Canvas home brand tool, but perhaps you'd like to send a campaign the second week of course to all adult learners who haven't viewed key elements in that particular area. So maybe they haven't clicked on the content tab, or maybe they have a non-active user in the modules aspect. What you could do is you could send a message that pops up and says, hey, we see that you're new here. Here are some resources that can help you land softly in this particular event, or this particular course, or this particular certificate, or whatever it may be. And we're here to help you in this way, and this way, and this way to make sure that your experience is possible. Another key area that we've seen this use is first-time learners. So it might be a situation where we have that breakdown in a system of data, or we have a list of emails that we can load into a particular campaign. Maybe 500 of the new cohort are first-time adult learners. They might get a bunch of different messaging than someone who this is old hat in their 6th or 7th iterum of this particular evaluation itself. So a lovely example.
Got another question here, Ian, from Stefan. He said he just installed Canvas on his GCP server, and he's trying to understand the best way to use it.
Beautiful. So my first suggestion would be open up there's a couple different course setup guides in the Canvas community. Well, first of all, if you haven't joined the Canvas community, you should do that like now. You can even stop listening to me and join that. In the Canvas community, there's a ton of different workflows that you can do as far as how you want to find your first user experience at a general Canvas level. So this is just what tools there are, how they can be used, what functions you kind of have as far as chess pieces on the different area. So the second piece is you want to look at the EesySoft use cases. So this might be, in addition to just getting around and using all the tools, are there different workflows in your environment and your institution that you wish to go ahead and pump or kind of initiate or drive additional attention to? Because historically, you've always wished to have full compliance or full adoption or full engagement in those particular areas, but you just haven't been able to kind of move the barometer up that much in those particular areas. And that could be anything. That could be department objective, that could be institution objective, that could be cohort directive. So I think there's a question, Stein. I saw that something pop up there.
Yeah, we got from Brooke here. Thanks for joining and thanks for asking, Brooke. Canvas, it's currently not, or EesySoft is currently not included in by default in all Canvas school contracts. However, we do have more and more signing on board. And whether teachers can view all the usage graphs or whether only viewable by administrators. Well, Ian, you just touched on that.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit more information on the first question too. The Canvas school contracts, it can be included. It's EesySoft has a partnership with instructors. One of the reasons why we're here today, where if you fall in love with it, you can call your Canvas CSM or rep and include EesySoft on instructor paper. So it could be included on the same contract that you have, but unfortunately it isn't included for free. So there would be additional dollar signs added onto the addition of EesySoft, but it can be included in that particular LMS contract. The follow-up, can teachers view all of those usage graphs? I said a little bit before, we have that feature in the wings. We should be able to have it in our 3.0 version, which will be arrive before September. So that would allow these particular graphs to be centralized, or the option for instructors to have those graphs as well for their individual courses that fall under the Canvas hierarchy. Great
right,
question.
so they wouldn't be able to access everything, but they could see,
No.
for example, the courses they're teaching and act on that information.
Correct. So it follows the hierarchical structure. If I'm a dean and I have 400 courses, obviously I can see the graphs for those 400 courses. But if I'm maybe a part-time professor that has 2 courses, that's all I'm going to see. So we're excited about that feature because obviously that opens up wider use of our tool. Right now, we've been seeing kind of the central administrators really benefit from this to push, specifically Center for Teaching and Learning opportunities. Value assessments of third-party tools has been a massive cost saving, but then also the support aspect when we go in here, the ability to kind of really lower the level of support that's digested and support resources that are utilized on a day-to-day basis. That's a big cost savings.
Definitely. And just to reiterate, one of the coolest things, as Ian said before, most of these use cases that we're picking out, either we've made them together with institutions who have specific needs, or we've actually had them sent in by institutions who have had these great ideas all by themselves. And that's kind of the effect we've seen with the EesySoft universe, which has existed for just over 2 months now. There's sort of this snowball social network effect where as more and more universities are posting examples from how they're doing things, other universities are seeing those examples, getting inspired and starting to use it in similar ways or tweaking them slightly. And the list of examples just is growing and growing. So the link to the EesySoft universe is in the chat. So feel free to take a look at that at any time.
Yeah, so I want to go back. Just one last thing I might share with you is kind of at the impetus of this particular presentation. I wrote a blog post as I was preparing. And the 3 big things, this is a Blackboard example of Tier 0 support, but it's the same in Canvas as well. Increase of online course offerings. So what we've seen a lot of is ensuring that all of the gaps are covered with an online area. And then lastly, the third big area is really making sure that you have an accurate understanding of the usage of tools, whether it be third-party tools or in Canvas app, when it comes time to renegotiate contracts or look at additional usage of those particular tools as we go forward. So a lot of the times we're having a meeting with a big university in Minnesota where they have 6 tools for one particular function. And they'd love to get, as opposed to just total FTE number on the contract, they'd love to get actual usage of those tools when they prepare to kind of evaluate the ROI or the value assessment and kind of applicability of those particular tools. Now, if they were to decide we were going to discontinue one or perhaps just lower the amount of budget accordingly, you could also have messages or campaigns show up in those applications that in 3 months would be transferred to other applications. We see a lot of that moving towards Studio. So in the old video area, every time you access it, when the countdown's starting, there's a pop-up saying, hey, Studio is the new system in town. You would do it like this in your homegrown system or previous system, but in the future, you're going to do it like this in Studio with links to drive those particular users into those different workflows and environments. So there's the offboarding process, and then when that tool disappears, you might see a message that says, hey, are you trying to click here because this is where the old tool used to be? Sorry, but that was offboarded. It's time to go ahead and move this. So it's a real kind of option for modernization and digitization, but as well, it ties to that whole cost saving things because you don't need to run in-person trainings or eat up faculty development times for the majority of those different messaging and pieces. And you can only target non-active users, so people who are laggards as far as moving over, and really target those messages to those who perhaps are resisting change, which is always a thing at every institution. I can even say that I resist change sometimes. My wife says I should drink less coffee. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Any last questions? I think that's kind of all that I had today. If you take home anything from this other than that the beginning of this presentation was wildly paced, is that EesySoft is a really, really nice tool that will, as soon as you evaluate, the first question would be, how do you want to use it? And there's going to be 5 or 10 different use cases that come up that are going to be, and half of them are going to be specific to that particular institution. So it's a lovely, malleable tool that can spur change and adoption based on the institutional objectives. And it's been a lot of fun presenting. I appreciate the full opportunity. And if you have any questions, we'll stick around a little bit.
Hey, Ian, talk to us a little bit about how people can get a hold of you if they've got questions about EesySoft. Do they go through their Canvas CSM? Do they reach out to you directly? How does that work?
Yep. Either way, I mean, the Canvas CSM probably is the number one. The second, I'll put in the chat. Stein, if you could put our emails in the chat as well. Through us, if you'd like to see a demonstration, we typically have that quick conversation. What are your use cases that you're looking at? And we'll load them into a demo environment. We'll welcome aboard the CSM or the solution engineer or the kind of the rep and the Canvas side, and do it in tandem. But yeah, you can either reach out to your Canvas representative or feel free to email us directly, and we'll be happy to do so.
Awesome. I am throwing those in right now. Hold on 2 seconds, everybody.
As you do that, I'm incredibly impressed at the global representation. We've got East Coasters, we've got Africans, we've got Scandinavians. Impressive stuff, and we've got New Yorkers as well. For some reason, I feel like there's a bunch of other people here as well. So it's been an absolute delight. Mark, thanks so much for setting this up. It's been great.
No problem. Yeah, everybody, you have those email addresses now. Go ahead, Stein.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit of lag. I was just saying very much appreciated for your time, and thanks for helping us out.
Thank you. Don't hesitate. It looks, Stein, like Adil Ahmed is interested in some more information. So if you'll grab that email address there, and
we'll reach out to you, Adil.
If there's any other questions, reach out to Ian or Stein, or feel free as always to reach out to me. Those who have been on, my info is mark.booth@instructure.com, and I'm happy to connect you with Ian or Stein as well. Big thanks to our friends and partners from EesySoft. They do some pretty incredible things, so check them out. Good luck with all of your quarantining, everybody around the world that we're seeing here today. Remember, tomorrow morning we're on again at 10:30 a.m. We're talking tomorrow about how to use the whole Google suite of products with Canvas. We'll see you there at 10:30. Talk to you tomorrow, guys. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. And one last one. I'm incredibly jealous of your background. That's a lovely corner table.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.